In the spotlight tonight, Donald Trump continues to successfully beg for attention to his fake presidential campaign designed to pump up the ratings of his NBC TV show, which, like most Americans and like most NBC shows, I have never seen. Trump's favorite trick remains fanning the flames of hatred of Muslims. He does this, of course, while saying something along the lines of some of his best friends are Muslims, the mandatory disclaimer racists and other haters have been using for most of Trump's lifetime.
He may have one, but there's something on that person, maybe religion, maybe it says he's a Muslim, I don't know.
Of course he doesn't know. How much time do you think Donald has for reading or fact-checking when he's got to spend that much time on his hair? Now, I have a team working on my hair, and I have a team working on fact-checking, so I actually do have the time to read the fact-checking that my team does while my team's working on my hair. So I can tell you this. The long-form birth certificate in use in Hawaii at the time Barack Obama was born does not include a space for the parents to indicate their or their child's religion. That issue has been settled since 2009 when the Honolulu Advertiser published a version of the long-form birth certificate issued at that time. Trump talks out of every side of his mouth about the announcement of Barack Obama's birth that appeared in at least 2 Hawaii newspapers.
2 poor people, a man and a woman with no money, they have a baby. There's announcements in the newspaper.
The grandparents did it.
The grandparents. Nelson Rockefeller doesn't put announcements.
Sure, there are birth announcements all the time.
I've never seen one.
Really?
No, I've never seen one. I've never seen one.
Okay, Trump's never seen one. O'Reilly has seen a lot of them, and I've seen a lot of them. O'Reilly has never been so gentle with someone who he knew was lying. And that was what he said. What was that he said about the Rockefellers?
2 poor people, a man and a woman with no money, they have a baby. There's announcements in the newspaper.
The grandparents did it.
The grandparents. Nelson Rockefeller doesn't put announcements.
Who knows more about what poor people are capable of than Donald Trump? Nelson Rockefeller doesn't make announcements of births. Okay. He may have thought he was safe, citing a dead person who couldn't argue with him, but it turns out Nelson Rockefeller did make birth announcements. The Associated Press reports on April 23, 1936, that Mr. and Mrs. Nelson Aldrich Rockefeller announced the name of their 3rd child, Stephen Rockefeller. As for Barack Obama, the birth announcements Trump refers to appeared in Honolulu's 2 major newspapers on August 13th and 14th. And those announcements are not published by the hippie parents, as Trump calls them, or by the grandparents, as O'Reilly imagined. They are received directly from Hawaii's State Health Bureau, as the Honolulu Advertiser shows, and the health department's spokeswoman confirmed in the Advertiser 2 years ago. So for the last 2 years, there has been absolutely no reason to guess how the Obama birth announcement appeared in the newspaper. Barack Obama's parents or grandparents could not have simply called the paper and had Barack Obama's birth announced in that section of those newspapers. Impossible. And there's another lie Trump has mentioned repeatedly and insisted upon again today on MSNBC.
We all agree he was born, okay? We're all so happy that he was born. Okay, now, the ad was put in. It's very unusual for people to put ads in, but it was 3 days later.
Notices and death notices are standard.
It was 3 days later, 3 days after the fact.
The birth announcements were not published 3 days after the fact. They were published 9 days after the fact in one paper, 10 days in the other. That's because those newspapers don't publish birth announcements every day, so the August 14th Star Bulletin would include birth announcements for children who were born as far back as July 30th, 5 days before Barack Obama. Joining me now, Huffington Post reporter and MSNBC analyst Alex Wagner. Thanks for joining us tonight, Alex.
Thanks for having me, Lawrence.
When was your birth announcement published? In what newspaper?
It was actually announced with a flock of doves and a fleet of hot air balloons. So my parents don't know anything about this newspaper thing.
Yeah. Let's listen to what Karl Rove had to say about Trump's use of the birther movement.
This is a mistake. It will marginalize him, and he's fallen for Barack Obama's trap. Barack Obama wants Republicans to fall into this trap because he knows it discredits us with the vast majority of the American people when we do.
Now, Karl Rove knows a little something about campaigning for Republican presidential nomination. So if he's using his analysis based on the notion that Trump is campaigning for the Republican presidential nomination, he may be right that it's a bad idea. But of course, Trump is campaigning for higher ratings for his TV show before he eventually announces that he's not running for president. So this is the way to go, isn't it?
For Trump it is, but I think Karl Rove speaks to the larger GOP concern, which is something we've spoken about, which is the people like Sarah Palin and Michelle Bachmann and Donald Trump take the GOP further and further to the right. And now you have candidates that, are ostensibly feasible, GOP 2012 presidential nominees like Tim Pawlenty having to address this with Sean Hannity on Fox News last night. This is a controversy that isn't going away because Donald Trump is keeping it alive.
Let's listen to what Trump said last night about Muslims and the Muslim problem.
Is there a Muslim problem in the world?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I don't notice Swedish people knocking down the World Trade Center. Well, there's something out there that brings a level of hostility that I've never seen in any religion. I mean, you can say what you want about the Koran, you can say what you want. There's something there.
I don't get to Vegas or Atlantic City much, but I take it that Muslims are not big gamblers at Trump casinos, and he doesn't need their business.
They're not his key demo. I mean, I think it's, on one hand, it's funny to talk about this, but at the same time, I think that there is some truth to this being a very disturbing trend, and that Donald Trump is fueling really negative conversation around multiracialism and Muslim and the Islam religion. And I think, I love talking about the census figures, Lawrence, but we look at, between 2000 and 2010, there was a 50% increase in multiracial youth born in this country. And here is someone that is purportedly running for president in 2012 and is casting aspersions on the nation's first biracial president. And I think that that is a disturbing thing.
And he does it with the sleaziest of possible amendments, like, there are some really nice Muslims out there.
I know, fabulous Muslims, I think, was the quote, which is, as you said, a classic avoidance strategy. And I think it is time to hold him to this rhetoric and to make him responsible for what he is engendering in various parts of the country.
Pardon me for struggling to take the man seriously, but you're absolutely right. He is in gutter politics now and doing something very, very ugly.
He is indeed.
Huffington Post reporter and MSNBC analyst Alex Wagner, thank you very much.